Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grammer. 1. Now Beowulf bode in the burg of the Scyldings, leader beloved, and long he rode in fame with all folk since his father had gone away from the world, till awoke an heir, haughty Healfdene, who held through life sage and sturdy the Scyldings glad. That one after one there woke to him to the chieftain of clansmen children four, Heoragar, then Hrothgar, then Helga brave, and a daughter who they say was Onella's queen, the heath of Scyldings helpmate dear. To Hrothgar was given such glory of war, such honour of combat, that all his kin obeyed him gladly, till great grew his band of youthful comrades. It came in his mind to bid his henchmen a hall uprear, Master Mead House, mightier far than ever was seen by the sons of earth, and within it, then, to old and young, he would all allot that the Lord had sent him, save only the land and the lives of his men. Wide I heard was the work commanded, for many a tribe this mid-earth round to fashion the folkstead. It fell as he ordered in rapid achievement, that ready it stood there of halls the noblest. Heorat he named it, whose message had might in many a land. Not reckless of promise, the rings he dealt treasure at banquet. There towered the hall, high, gabled wide, the hot surge wading a furious flame. Nor far was that day when father and son-in-law stood in feud for warfare and hatred that woke again. With envy and anger, an evil spirit endured the dole in his dark abode, that he heard each day the din of revel high in the hall. There harps rang out, clear song of the singer. He sang who knew tales of the early time of man, how the Almighty made the earth fairest fields enfolded by water, set, triumphant, sun and moon for a light to lighten the land-dwellers, and braided bright the breast of earth with limbs and leaves, made life for all of mortal beings that breathe and move. So lived the clansmen in cheer and revel, a winsome life, till one began to fashion evils that field of hell. Grendel, this monster grim was called. March, river mighty, in moorland living, in fen and fastness, fief of the giants the hapless wight awhile had kept since the Creator his exile doomed. On kin of Cain was the killing avenged by sovereign God for slaughtered Abel. Ill fared his feud, and far was he driven for the slaughter's sake from sight of men. Of Cain awoke all that woeful breed, Etons and elves and evil spirits, as well as the giants that warred with God weary while, but their wage was paid them. The end of Chapter 1. Read by Rick Kistner for Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grammer. 2. Went he forth to find at fall of night that haughty house, and heed wherever the ring-danes out-revelled to rest had gone. Found within it the atheling band asleep after feasting, and fearless of sorrow of human hardship. Unhallowed wight, grim and greedy, he grasped betimes wrathful, reckless from resting places 30 of the thanes, and thence he rushed, fain of his fell spoil, faring homeward laden with slaughter his lair to seek. Then at the dawning, as day was breaking, the might of Grendel to men was known. Then after wassail was wail, uplifted loud moan in the morn. The mighty chief, atheling, excellent, unblithe, sat laboured in woe for the loss of his thanes, when once had been traced the trail of the fiend, spirit accursed, too cruel that sorrow, too long, too loathsome, not late the respite. With night returning anew began ruthless murder. He reckoned no whit, firm in his guilt of the feud and crime. They were easy to find who elsewhere sought in room remote their rest at night. Bed in the bowers, when that bale was shown, was seen in sooth, with surest token the hall thanes' hate. Such held themselves far and fast, who the fiend outran. Thus ruled unrighteous and raged, his fill one against all, until empty stood that lordly building, and long it bode so. 12 years tide the trouble he bore, sovereign of Scyldings, sorrows in plenty, boundless cares. There came unhidden tidings, true to the tribes of men in sorrowful songs, how ceaselessly Grendel harassed Hrothgar, what hate he bore him, what murder and massacre, many a year feud unfading, refused consent to deal with any of Daneland's earls, make pact of peace or compound for gold. Still less did the wise men ween to get great fee for the feud from his fiendish hands. But the evil one ambushed old and young, death shadow dark, and dogged them still, lured, or lurked in the livelong night of misty moorlands. Men may say not where the haunts of these hell runes be. Such heaping of horrors the hater of men, lonely roamer wrought unceasing, harassing heavy, or he lorded gold bright hall in gloomy nights, and ne'er could the prince approach his throne. 'Twas judgment of God, or have joy in his hall. Sore was the sorrow to Scylding's friend, heart-rending misery. Many nobles sat assembled and searched out counsel, how it were best for bold-hearted men against harassing terror to try their hand. Whiles they vowed in their heathen fanes altar offerings, asked with words that the slayer of souls would succour given them for the pain of their people. Their practice this, their heathen hope, 'twas hell they thought of in mood of their mind. Almighty they knew not, doomsman of deeds and dreadful Lord, nor heaven's helmet heeded they ever, wielder of wonder. Woe for that man who in harm and hatred hales his soul to fiery embraces, nor favour, nor change awaits he ever. But well for him that after death day may draw to his Lord, and friendship find in the Father's arms. Read by Rick Kistner for Lit2Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf. Translated by Francis B. Grumer. 3. Thus seethed unceasing the son of Helfdene with the woe of these days. Not wisest men assuaged his sorrow. Too sore the anguish, loathly and long, that lay on his folk, most baneful of burdens and bales of the night. This heard in his home Hygelac's thane, great among Geats of Grendel's doings. He was the mightiest man of valour in that same day of this our life, stalwart and stately. A stout wave-walker he bade make ready. Yon battle-king, said he, far o'er the swan road he fain would seek the noble monarch who needed men. The prince's journey by prudent folk was little blamed, though they loved him dear. They wedded the hero and hailed good omens. And now the bold one from bands of Geats comrades chose, the keenest of warriors ere he could find. With 14 men the seaward he sought, and sailor-proved led them on to the land's confines. Time had now flown. Afloat was the ship, bowed under bluff. On board they climbed, warriors ready. Waves were churning sea with sand. The sailors bore on the breast of the bark their bright array, their mail and weapons. The men pushed off on its willing way the well-braced craft. Then moved o'er the waters by might of the wind that bark like a bird with breast of foam, till in season's dew on the second day the curved prow such course had run that sailors now could see the land, sea cliffs shining, steep high hills, headlands broad. Their haven was found, their journey ended. Up then quickly the Weeder's clansmen climbed ashore, anchored their seaward with armour clashing and gear of battle. God they thanked for passing in peace o'er the paths of the sea. Now saw from the cliff the Scylding clansmen a warden that watched the water's side, how they bore o'er the gangway glittering shields, war gear in readiness. Wonder seized him to know what manner of men they were. Straight to the strand his steed he rode. Hrothgar's henchman with hand of might he shook his spear and spake in parley. Who are ye then, ye armed men, mailed folk, that yon mighty vessel have urged thus o'er the ocean ways, here o'er the waters? A warden, I, sentinel set o'er the sea march here, lest any foe to the folk of Danes with harrying fleet should harm the land. No aliens ever at ease thus bore them, linden wielders. Yet word of leave clearly ye lack from clansmen here, my folk's agreement. A greater ne'er saw I of warriors in world than is one of you. Yon hero in harness, no henchman he worthied by weapons, if witness his features, his peerless presence. I pray you, though, tell your folk and home, lest hence ye fair suspect to wander your way as spies in Danish land. Now dwellers afar, ocean travellers, take from me simple advice. The sooner the better I hear of the country whence ye came. Read by Rick Kistner for Lit2Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf. Translated by Francis B. Grumer. 4. To him the statelier spake in answer, the warrior's leader his word hoard unlocked. We are by kin of the clan of Geats, and Hygelac's own hearth fellows we. To folk afar was my father known, noble atheling, Ecgthal named. Full of winters he fared away, aged from earth he is honoured still through width of the world by wise men all. To thy lord and liege in loyal mood we hasten hither to Helfdene's son, people protector. Be pleased to advise us,
To that mighty one come we on mickle errand to the Lord of the Danes, nor deem I right that aught be hidden. We hear, thou knowest, if sooth it is, the saying of men that amid the skylings a scathing monster, dark Ildur in dusky nights, shows terrific his rage, unmatched hatred and murder. To Hrothgar I in greatness of soul would succour bring, so the wise and brave may worst his foes, if ever the end of ills is fated of cruel contest, if cure will follow, and the boiling care waves cooler grow. Else, ever afterward anguish days he shall suffer in sorrow, while stands in place high on its hill that house unpeered. Astride his steed the strandward answered, clansman unquailing, the keen-souled thane must be skilled to sever and sunder duly words and works. If he well intends, I gather this band is graciously bent to the Scounding's master. March then, bearing weapons and weeds the way I show you. I will bid my men your boat meanwhile to guard, for fear lest foemen come, your new-taught ship by shore of ocean faithfully watching, till once again it waft o'er the waters those well-loved thanes, winding-necked wood to Weeder's bounds, heroes such as the hest of fate shall succour and save from the shock of war. They bent them to march. The boat lay still, fettered by cable and fast at anchor, broad-bosomed ship. Then shone the boars over the cheek-guard, chased with gold, keen and gleaming, guard it kept o'er the man-of-war, as marched along heroes in haste, till the hall they saw broad of gable and bright with gold. That was the fairest mid-folk of earth, of houses neath heaven where Hrothgar lived, and the gleam of it lighted o'er the lands afar. The sturdy shieldsman showed that bright burgher the boldest, bade them go straightway hither. His steed then turned hardy hero, and hailed them thus: "'Tis time that I fare from you, Father Almighty, in grace and mercy guard you well, safe in your seekings. Seaward I go, 'gainst hostile warriors hold my watch." Read by Rick Kistner, for Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grumer. 5. Stone bright the street. It showed the way to the crowd of clansmen. Corselets glistened, hand-forged. Hard on their harness bright the steel ring sang as they strode along in mail of battle and marched to the hall. There, weary of ocean, the wall along they set their bucklers, their broad shields down, and bowed them to bench. The breastplates clanged, war gear of men, their weapons stacked. Spears of the seafarers stood together, grey-tipped ash, that iron band was worthily weaponed. A warrior proud asked of the heroes their home and kin, "Whence now bear ye burnished shields, harness grey and helmets grim, spears in multitude?" Messenger, I, Hrothgar's herald. Heroes so many ne'er met I, as strangers of mood so strong. 'Tis plain that for prowess not plunged into exile, for high-hearted valour Hrothgar ye seek. Him the sturdy in war bespake with words. Proud Earl of the Weders answer made, hardy neath helmet: "Hygelacs we, fellows at board. I am Beowulf named. I am seeking to say to the son of Helfdene this mission of mine to thy master lord, the doughty prince, if he deign at all grace that we greet him, the good one, now." Wulfgar spake, the Wendel chieftain, whose might of mind to many was known, his courage and counsel. "The king of Danes, the Scounding's friend, I fain will tell the breaker of rings as the boon thou askest, the famed prince of thy faring hither, and swiftly after such answer bring as the doughty monarch may deign to give." Hide then in haste to where Hrothgar sat, white-haired and old, his earls about him, till the stout thane stood at the shoulder there of the Danish king, good courtier he. Wulfgar spake to his winsome lord: "Hither have fared to thee far-come men o'er the paths of ocean, people of Geatland, and the stateliest there by his sturdy band is Beowulf named. This boon they seek, that they, my master, may with thee have speech at will, nor spurn their prayer to give them hearing, gracious Hrothgar. In weeds of the warrior worthy, they, methinks of our liking, the leader, most surely a hero that hither his henchman has led." Read by Rick Kistner, for Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grumer. 6. Hrothgar answered, helmet of Scoundings, "I knew him of yore in his youthful days. His aged father was Egthau named, to whom at home gave Hrethel the Geat his only daughter. Their offspring bold fares hither to seek the steadfast friend. And seamen too have said me this, who carried my gifts to the Geatish court. Thither for thanks he has 30 men's heft of grasp in the gripe of his hand, the bold in battle. Blessed God, out of his mercy, this man hath sent to Danes of the west, as I ween indeed against horror of Grendel. I hope to give the good youth gold for his gallant thought. Be thou in haste, and bid them hither, clan of kinsmen, to come before me. And add this word, they are welcome guests to folks of the Dane. To the door of the hall Wulfgar went, and the word declared, To you this message my master sends, East Danes' king, that your kin he knows, hardy heroes, and hails you all welcome hither o'er waves of the sea. Ye may wend your way in war attire, and under helmets Hrothgar greet, but let here the battle shields bide your parley, and wooden war shafts wait its end. Uprose the mighty one, ringed with his men, brave band of thanes, some bode without battle gear guarding as bade the chief. Then hied that troop where the herald led them, under Heorit's roof the hero strode, hardy neath helm till the hearth he neared. Beowulf spake, his breastplate gleamed, war net woven by wit of the smith. Thou Hrothgar, hail! Hygelac, I kinsman and follower. Fame aplenty have I gained in youth, these Grendel deeds I heard in my homeland heralded clear. Seafarers, say how stands this hall of buildings best for your band of thanes empty and idle when evening sun in the harbour of heaven is hidden away. So my vassals advised me well, brave and wise the best of men, O sovereign Hrothgar, to seek thee here, for my nerve and my might they knew full well themselves, had seen me from slaughter come blood-flecked from foes where 5 I bound, and that wild brood worsted. Aye, the waves I slew Nicors by night, in need and peril avenging the Weders, whose woe they sought, crushing the grim ones. Grendel now, monster cruel, be mine to quell in single battle. So from thee, thou sovereign of the shining Danes, Scyldings' bulwark, a boon I seek, and friend of the folk, refuse it not, O warrior's shield, now I've wandered far, that I alone with my liegemen here this hardy band may Heorot purge. More I hear that the monster, dire in his wanton mood of weapons, recks not. Hence shall I scorn so Hygelac stay, king of my kindred, kind to me, brand or buckler to bear in the fight, gold-coloured targe. But with gripe alone must I front the fiend, and fight for life, foe against foe. Then faith be his in the doom of the Lord, whom death shall take. Fain, I ween, if the fight he win, in this hall of gold my Geatish band will he fearless eat, as oft before my noblest thanes. Nor needst thou then to hide my head, for his shall I be, dyed in gore, if death must take me. And my blood-covered body he'll bear as prey ruthless devour, if the roamer lonely with my life-blood redden his lair in the fen. No further for me needst food prepare, to Hygelac send, if Hild should take me, best of war weeds, warding my breast, armour excellent, heirloom of Hrethel, and work of Wayland, fair as weird as she must. Read by Rick Kistner for Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grumer. 7. Hrothgar spake the Scyldings' helmet, For fight defensive friend my Beowulf to succour and save, thou hast sought us here. Thy father's combat a feud enkindled when Ethelaf with hand he slew among the Wylflings, his weeder kin for horror of fighting feared to hold him. Fleeing, he sought our South Dane folk, over surge of ocean the honour Scyldings, when first I was ruling the folk of Danes, wielded youthful this widespread realm, this hoard-hold of heroes. Heorgar was dead, my elder brother had breathed his last. Helfdene's bairn, he was better than I. Straightway the feud with Fee I settled, to the Wylfing sent o'er watery ridges treasures olden. Oaths he swore me, sore as my soul, to say to any of the race of man what wrath for me in Heorot Grendel with hate hath wrought, what sudden harryings. Hallfolk fail me, my warriors wane, for word hath swept them into Grendel's grasp. But God is able this deadly foe from his deeds to turn. Boasted full oft as my beer they drank, earls o'er the ale-cup armed men, that they would bide in the beer-hall hear Grendel's attack with terror of blades. Then was this mead-house at morning tide dyed with gore when the daylight broke, all the boards of the benches blood besprinkled, gory the hall. I had heroes the less, doughty dear ones that death had reft. But sit to the banquet, unbind thy words, hardy hero, as heart shall prompt thee. Gathered together the Geatish men in the banquet hall, on bench assigned, sturdy-spirited, sat them down hardy-hearted. A henchman attended, carried the carven cup in hand, served the clear mead. Oft minstrel sang blithe in Heorot. Heroes revelled, no dearth of warriors, Wieder and Dane. Read by Rick Kishner for Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grumer. 8. Unferth spake, the son of Ecglaf, who sat at the feet of the Scyldings' lord, unbound the battle runes. Beowulf's quest, sturdy seafarers, sorely galled him. Ever he envied that other men should more achieve in middle earth of fame under heaven than he himself. Art thou that Beowulf, Breaker's rival, who emulous swam on the open sea when for pride the pair of you proved the floods and wantonly dared in waters deep to risk your lives? No living man or leaf or loathe from your labour dire could you dissuade from suing the main. Ocean tides with your arms ye covered, with strenuous hands the sea streets measured swam o'er the waters. Winter storm rolled the rough waves. In realm of sea a sea-knight strove ye, in swimming he topped thee, had more of main. Him at morning-tide billows bore to the battling Remus, whence he hied to his home so dear, beloved of his liegemen, to land of Bronding's fastness fair, where his folk he ruled town and treasure. In triumph o'er thee, Bean stands barren his boast achieved. So ween I for thee a worse adventure, though in buffet of battle thou brave hast been, in struggle grim if Grendel's approach thou darest await through the watch of night. Beowulf spake, Bairn of Ecgthau, what a deal hast uttered, dear my Unferth, drunken with beer of Breca now, told of his triumph. Truth, I claim it, that I had more of might in the sea than any man else, more ocean endurance. We twain had talked in time of youth and made our boast. We were merely boys, striplings still, to stake our lives far at sea, and so we performed it. Naked swords as we swam along we held in hand, with hope to guard us against the whales. Not a whit from me could he float afar o'er the flood of waves, haste o'er the billows, nor him I abandoned. Together we twain on the tides abode 5 nights full, till the flood divided us, churning waves and chillest weather, darkling night, and the northern wind ruthless rushed on us. Rough was the surge. Now the wrath of the sea-fish rose apace, yet me 'gainst the monsters my mailed coat, hard and hand-linked, help afforded. Battle-sark braided my breast to ward, garnished with gold. There grasped me firm, and haled me to bottom the hated foe with grimmest grip. 'Twas granted me, though, to pierce the monster with point of sword, with blade of battle. Huge beast of the sea was whelmed by the hurly through hand of mine. Read by Rick Kishner, for Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grumer. 9. Me thus often the evil monsters thronging threatened. With thrust of my sword the darling I dealt them do return. No wise had they bliss from their booty then to devour their victim, vengeful creatures seated to banquet at bottom of sea. But at break of day, by my brand, sore hurt on the edge of ocean, up they lay, put to sleep by the sword. And since by them on the fathomless seaways sailor folk are never molested, light from east came bright God's beacon, the billows sank, so that I saw the sea cliff's high windy walls. For weird oft saveth Earl undoomed if he doughty be. And so it came that I killed with my sword 9 of the Nicors. Of night-fought battles ne'er heard I a harder 'neath heaven's dome, nor adrift on the deep a more desolate man. Yet I came unharmed from that hostile clutch, though spent with swimming. The sea upbore me, flood of the tide, on Finnish land, the welling waters. No wise of thee have I heard men tell such terror of falchion's bitter battle. Breaker, ne'er yet, not one of you pair, in the play of war such daring deed has done at all with bloody brand. I boast not of it, though thou wast the bane of thy brethren dear, thy closest kin, whence curse of hell awaits thee, well as thy wit may serve. For I say in sooth, thou son of Ecglaf, never had Grendel these grim deeds wrought. Monster dire on thy master dear, inherit such havoc, if heart of thine were as battle bold as thy boast is loud. But he has found no feud will happen from sword-clash dread of your Danish clan. He vaunts him safe from the victor Scyldings. He falses pledges, favours none of the land of Danes, but lustily murders, fights, and feasts, nor feud he dreads from spear-Dane men. But speedily now shall I prove him the prowess and pride of the Geats, shall bid him in battle. Blithe to mead go he that listeth, when light of dawn this morrow morning o'er men of earth, ether-robed sun from the south shall beam. Joyous then was the jewel-giver, hoar-haired, war-brave, Help awaited the bright Dane's prince from Beowulf hearing, folk's good shepherd such firm resolve. Then was laughter of liegemen, loud resounding. With winsome words came Wealhtheow forth, queen of Hrothgar, heedful of courtesy, gold-decked, greeting the guests in hall. And the high-born lady handed the cup first to the East Dane's heir and warden, bade him be blithe at the beer carouse the land's beloved one. Lustily took he banquet and beaker, battle-famed king. Through the hall then went the helming's lady, to younger and older everywhere carried the cup, till come the moment when the ring-graced queen, the royal-hearted, to Beowulf bore the beaker of mead. She greeted the Geat's Lord God, she thanked in wisdom words that her will was granted, that at last on a hero her hope could lean for comfort in terrors. The cup he took, hearty in hand, from Wealhtheow's hand, and answer uttered, the eager for combat. Beowulf spake, bairn of Ecgtheow, this was my thought when my thanes and I bent to the ocean and entered our boat, that I would work the will of your people fully, or fighting fall in death in fiend's grip fast. I am firm to do an earl's brave deed, or end the days of this life of mine in the mead hall here. Well these words to the woman seemed, Beowulf's battle boast, bright with gold, the stately dame by her spouse sat down. Again, as erst began in hall warriors' wassail and words of power, the proud bands revelled, till presently the son of Helferdine hastened to seek rest for the night. He knew there waited fight for the fiend in that festal hall, when the sheen of the sun they saw no more, and dusk of night sank darkling nigh, and shadowy shapes came striding on, wan under welkin. The warriors rose. Man to man he made harangue. Hrothgar to Beowulf bade him hail, let him wield the wine-hall. A word he added. Never to any man erst I trusted, since I could heave up hand and shield this noble Dane hall till now to thee. Have now and hold this house unpeered. Remember thy glory, thy might declare. Watch for the foe. No wish shall fail thee if thou bidest the battle with bold won life. Read by Rick Kistner. For Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf. Translated by Francis B. Gromer. 10. Then Hrothgar went with his hero train, defensive Scyldings, forth from hall. Fain would the warlord Wealhtheow seek couch of his queen. The king of glory against this Grendel a guard had set, so heroes heard a hall defender, who warded the monarch and watched for the monster. In truth, the Geat's prince gladly trusted his mettle, his might, the mercy of God. Cast off then his corslet of iron, helmet from head to his henchman gave, choicest of weapons the well-chased sword, bidding him guard the gear of battle. Spake then his vaunt, the valiant man, Beowulf great, ere the bed he sought. O force in fight no feebler I count me in grim war deeds than Grendel seems him. Not with the sword then to sleep of death his life will I give, though it lie in my power. No skill is his to strike against me, my shield to hew, though he hardy be, bold in battle. We both this night shall spurn the sword if he seek me here, unweaponed, for war. Let wisest God, sacred Lord, on which side soever doom decree as he deemeth right. Reclined then the chieftain, and cheek-pillows held the head of the earl, while all about him seamen hardy on hall-beds sank. None of them thought that thence their steps to the folk and fastness that fostered them, to the land they loved, would lead them back. Full well they wist that on warriors many battle death seized in the banquet hall of Danish clan. But comfort and help war-wheel weaving to weeder folk the master gave, that, by might of one, over their enemy all prevailed by single strength. In sooth, 'tis told that highest God or humankind hath willed it ever. Thro' wan night stroding came the walker in shadow. Warriors slept, whose hest was to guard the gabled hall, all save one. 'Twas widely known that against God's will the ghostly ravager him could not hurl to haunts of darkness. Wakeful, ready with warrior's wrath, bold he bided the battle's issue. Read by Rick Kistner. For Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf. Translated by Francis B. Gromer. 11. Then from the moorland by misty crags with God's wrath-laden Grendel came. The monster was minded of mankind now, sundry to seize in the stately house. Under welkin he walked, till the wine palace there, gold hall of men, he gladly discerned. flashing with fretwork. Not first time this that he the home of Hrothgar sought, yet ne'er in his life day, late or early, such hardy heroes, such hall thanes found. To the house the warrior walked apace, parted from peace. The portal opened, though with forged bolts fast, when his fists had struck it, and baleful he burst in his blatant rage the house's mouth. All hastily then o'er fair paved floor the fiend trod on, irefully strode. There streamed from his eyes fearful flashes like flame to see. He spied in hall the hero band, kin and clansmen clustered asleep, hardy liegemen. Then laughed his heart, for the monster was minded, ere morn should dawn, savage to sever the soul of each life from body, since lusty banquet waited his will. But Ward forbade him to seize any more of men on earth after that evening. Eagerly watched Hygelac's kinsman his cursed foe, how he would fare in fell attack, not that the monster was minded to pause. Straightway he seized a sleeping warrior for the first, and tore him fiercely asunder. The bone frame bit, drank blood in streams, swallowed him piecemeal. Swiftly thus the lifeless corpse was clear devoured, e'en hands and feet. Then farther he hied, for the hardy hero with hand he grasped, felt for the foe with fiendish claw, for the hero's reclining, who clutched it boldly, prompt to answer, propped on his arm. Soon then saw that shepherd of evils, that never he met in this middle world in the ways of earth, another wight with heavier hand gripe. At heart he feared, sorrowed in soul, none the sooner escaped. Fain would he flee, his fastness seek, the den of devils, no doings now such as oft he had done in days of old. Then bethought him the hardy Hygelac thane of his boasted evening. Up he bounded, grasped firm his foe, whose fingers cracked. The fiend made off, but the earl close followed. The monster meant, if he might at all, to fling himself free and far away fly to the fens, knew his fingers' power in the grip of the grim one. Gruesome marched to Heorot this monster of harm had made. Din filled the room. The Danes were bereft, castle dwellers and clansmen all, earls of their ale. Angry with both those savage hall guards, the house resounded. Wonder it was the wine hall firm in the strain of their struggle stood to earth, the fair house fell not. Too fast it was within and without by its iron bands craftily clamped, though there crashed from sill many a mead bench, men have told me, gay with gold, where the grim foes wrestled. So well had weened the wisest Scyldings that not ever at all might any man that bone-decked brave house break asunder, crush by craft, unless clasp of fire and smoke engulfed it. Again uprose, din redoubled. Danes of the north with fear and frenzy were filled, each one, who from the wall that wailing heard God's foe sounding his grisly song, cry of the conquered, clamorous pain from captive of hell. Too closely held him he who of men in might was strongest in that same day of this our life. Read by Rick Kistner for Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grimer. 12. Not in any wise would the earl's defence suffer that slaughterous stranger to live, useless deeming his days and years to men on earth. Now many an earl of Beowulf brandished blade ancestral, fain the life of their lord to shield their praised prince, if power were theirs. Never they knew, as they neared the foe, hardy-hearted heroes of war, aiming their swords on every side the accursed to kill, no keenest blade, no fairest of falchions, fashioned on earth could harm or hurt that hideous fiend. He was safe by his spells from sword of battle, from edge of iron. Yet his end and parting on that same day of this our life woeful should be, and his wandering soul far off flit to the fiend's domain. Soon he found, who in former days harmful in heart and hated of God, on many a man such murder wrought, that the frame of his body failed him now. For him the keen-souled kinsman of Hygelac held in hand, hateful alive was each to other. The outlaw dire took mortal hurt, a mighty wound showed on his shoulder, and sinews cracked, and the bone frame burst. To Beowulf now the glory was given, and Grendel thence death-sick his den in the dark moor sought, noisome abode. He knew too well that here was the last of life, and end of his days on earth. To all the Danes by that bloody battle the boon had come. From ravage had rescued the roving stranger Hrothgar's hall. The hardy and wise one had purged it anew. His night work pleased him, his deed and its honour. To eastern Danes had the valiant Keat his vaunt made good, all their sorrow and ills assuaged, their bale of battle borne so long, and all the dole they erst endured pain aplenty. 'Twas proof of this when the hardy in fight a hand laid down to arm and shoulder, all indeed of Grendel's grip, neath the gabled roof. Read by Rick Kistner for Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grumer. 13. Many at morning, as men have told me, warriors gathered the gift hall round, folk leaders faring from far and near o'er wide-stretched ways the wonder to view, trace of the traitor. Not troublous seemed the enemy's end to any man, who saw by the gait of the graceless foe how the weary-hearted, away from thence, baffled in battle and band, his steps death-marked dragged to the devil's mere. Bloody the billows were boiling there, turbid the tide of tumbling waves, horribly seething with sword-blood hot by that doomed one died who in den of the moor laid forlorn his life adown, his heathen soul and hell received it. Home then rode the hoary clansmen from that merry journey, and many a youth on horses white, the hardy warriors, back from the mere. Then Beowulf's glory eager they echoed, and all averred that from sea to sea or south or north there was no other in earth's domain, under vault of heaven more valiant found, of warriors none more worthy to rule. On their lord believed they laid no slight, gracious Hrothgar, a good king he. From time to time the tried in battle their grey steeds set to gallop amain, and ran a race when the road seemed fair. From time to time Athena the king, who had made many vaunts and was mindful of verses, stored with sagas and songs of old, bound word to word in well-knit rhyme, wielded his lay. This warrior soon of Beowulf's quest right cleverly sang, and artfully added an excellent tale in well-ranged words of the warlike deeds he had heard in saga of Sigemund. Strange the story, he said it all. The Welsing's wanderings wide, his struggles which never were told to tribes of men, the feuds and the frauds, save to Fitela only. When of these things he deigned to speak, uncle to nephew, as ever the twain stood side by side in stress of war and multitude of the monster kind they had felled with their swords. Of Sigemund grew, when he passed from life, no little praise for the doughty in combat a dragon killed that herded the horde. Under hoary rock the atheling dared the deed alone, fearful quest, nor was Fitela there. Yet so it befell. His falchion pierced that wondrous worm, on the wall it struck, best blade. The dragon died in its blood. Thus had the dread one, by daring achieved o'er the ring-hoard to rule at will himself to pleasure. A sea-boat he loaded, and bore on its bosom the beaming gold son of Wales. The worm was consumed. He had of all heroes the highest renown among races of men, this refuge of warriors for deeds of daring that decked his name, since the hand and heart of Haramud grew slack in battle. He swiftly banished to mingle with monsters at mercy of foes, to death was betrayed, for torrents of sorrow had lamed him too long, a load of care to earls and aethelings all he proved, oft indeed in earlier days, for the warriors wayfaring wise men mourned, who had hoped of him help from harm and bale, and had thought their sovereign's son would thrive, follow his father, his folk protect, the hoard and the stronghold, heroes' land, home of Skeldings. But here Thane said, the kinsman of Hygelac kinder seemed to all. The other was urged to crime, and afresh to the race, the fallow roads by swift steeds measured. The morning sun was climbing higher. Clansmen hastened to the high-built hall, those hardy-minded the wonder to witness. Warden of treasure, crowned with glory, the king himself with stately band from the bride bower strode, and with him the queen and her crowd of maidens measured the path to the mead house fair. Read by Rick Kistner for Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu. Beowulf, translated by Francis B. Grumer. 14. Hrothgar spake. To the hall he went, stood by the steps, the steep roof saw, garnished with gold, and Grendel's hand. For the sight I see, to the sovereign ruler be speedy thanks. A throng of sorrows I have borne from Grendel, but God still works, wonder on wonder, the warden of glory. It was but now that I never more for woes that weighed on me waited help long as I lived, when, laved in blood, stood, sword-gore stained, this stateliest house, widespread woe for wise men all, who had no hope to hinder ever foes infernal and fiendish sprites from havoc in hell. This hero now, by the wielder's might, a work has done that not all of us erst could ever do by wile and wisdom. Lo, Well can she say, whomso of women this warrior bore among sons of men, if still she liveth, that the God of the ages was good to her in the birth of her bairn. Now Beowulf, thee, of heroes best, I shall heartily love as mine own, my son. Preserve thou ever this kinship new. Thou shalt never lack wealth of the world that I wield as mine. Full oft for less have I largesse showered my precious hoard on a punier man less stout in struggle. Thyself hast now fulfilled such deeds that thy fame shall endure through all the ages. As ever he did, well may the wielder reward thee still. Beowulf spake, Bairn of Ecgtheow, this work of war most willingly we have fought, this fight and fearlessly dared force of the foe. Fain too, were I hadst thou but seen himself what time the fiend in his trappings tottered to fall. Swiftly, I thought, in strongest gripe on his bed of death to bind him down, that he in the hent of this hand of mine should breathe his last. But he broke away. Him I might not, the Maker willed not, hinder from flight, and firm enough hold the life-destroyer. Too sturdy was he, the ruthless in running. For rescue, however, he left behind him his hand in pledge, arm and shoulder, nor aught of help could the cursed one thus procure at all. None the longer liveth he, loathsome fiend, sunk in his sins, but sorrow holds him tightly grasped in gripe of anguish and baleful bonds, where bide he must, evil outlaw, such awful doom as the mighty Maker shall mete him out. More silent seemed the son of Ecglaf in boastful speech of his battle deeds, since athelings all, through the earl's great prowess, beheld that hand on the high roof gazing foemen's fingers, the forepart of each of the sturdy nails to steel was likest, heathen's hand-spear, hostile warrior's claw uncanny. 'Twas clear, they said, that him no blade of the brave could touch, how keen soever or cut away that battle-hand bloody from baneful foe. Read by Rick Kishner. For Lit to Go on the web at fcit.usf.edu.